Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday AM meditative writing circle. We meet here every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time to be able to do journal writing exercises that are going to be able to help us with our writing. I like to be able to use journal writing as a space to be able to give us some prompts to be able to help us with our writing and to be able to mine our lives, to be able to find stories that we can write about, whether you're doing nonfiction or fiction stories, and just find out things that you find out things about yourself that maybe you never thought about, might be interesting to write, excuse me, to write about, um, or stories you didn't think about telling. And so before we get into today's topic, as always, I like to be able to start out with a very short meditation. And so I always cut the video off before we even start with the meditation. And if you can, just put the bottom of your feet flat on the floor, or if you choose to, you can also sit cross-legged where you are. And if you can sit up straight so that you can remain alert, but still very comfortable, you don't need to put your back into any sort of pain. And if you can, just start to breathe purposefully into your lungs and into your belly. Just start to be conscious of where your shoulders are. You can drop your shoulders, relax a little bit. And just continue to breathe deeply on your own. And if you'd like, you can imagine for a moment from the top of your head, that's your crown chakra, a golden light just sort of going through the top of your head, down through the back of your neck, down to your spine, all the way down your legs and through the bottom of your feet. And it goes through the core of the earth. That might help you to feel a bit more grounded or stabilized throughout the day. And just take a last couple of breaths. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. All right, so once again, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's so nice to see everyone's happy, smiling faces. Today, I got the idea for this particular class from one of my current writing teachers. So we're talking about the process of revising, to revise, to review, or to revision. And so I looked up the word revise. It's from the Latin word, I guess you would say it, revisere, revisere, meaning to look at again or to revisit. And in the dictionary, to revise means to re-examine or to see again. So our way of looking at revising is just sort of looking at things that may have meant one thing to us at one part of life. And as we've gotten older, and had more experiences, our views on a particular event may have changed over time. Um, so my first question is actually the question that I'm basing all the other questions on. And so we're just want us to be able to think about a specific event or a moment that altered how we viewed our life. So it could be an unexpected encounter or a major life event, or just a simple, but also at the same time, profound realization. And so just to give you an example of what I'm looking at, uh, the difference between what I thought marriage was when I was a kid became very different when I went through the experience of divorce. Two very different experiences. So that's just one example. So the question for today, and I'll put it in the chat. The question is, when did an experience radically change your perception of your life? When did an experience radically change your perception of your life? I'll put 10 minutes on the clock. 2 more minutes. Okay. You can kind of wrap up what you were writing. And if anyone wants to share what they have written, I'd love to hear it. You can read what you've written or just sort of give a summary, depends on you. But the question is, when did an experience radically change your perception of your life?
I'd like to start.
Yes, please, Carolyn.
Thank you. The revisions I made were lifestyle choices, what I identified as fun, types of friends, dietary practices, my intentions toward others, and what I allowed them to intend for me. A decision rather than an experience changed the perception of my life in a radical way. I was my greatest experiment. Everyone thought I was crazy. Some even said it to my face. They told me I would never make it. I threw the dice and bet on me. As a result, I became my closest friend and confidant. Although I left a relationship that muddied the waters of motherhood for me, I'm a better person for the sacrifice. I chose me.
Beautiful, thank you. You never go wrong when you choose yourself.
That's the truth.
That's one thing I learned for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyone else?
Sure, I'll go. Good morning, ladies.
Good
Thank
morning.
you for that, Carolyn. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, this was a big one, and for me. And when I started writing about. I don't like to use the words good and bad, but I'll use fortunate and unfortunate. So there were some fortunate experiences, but I decided to write on the other spectrum about things that I thought were unfortunate, and they fell into a category of death and loss, like loss. Those experiences radically changed me. And I've lost, like many of us have. And as you get older, the losses will increase, whatever they are. Loss of home, family, friends, work, job, whatever. So when I thought about, when I was writing this vision came to my mind about if anybody knows anything about hunting, hunters work usually in what's called a blind, and it's usually up in a tree, and it gives them all the advantage over their prey. So they have a full 180 view. They can see the prey coming. They're prepared. They have ammunition, and it gives you the feeling of being in control of what's about to happen. That's how I felt as a person when I lost parents, sibling, friends, a husband, most recently. Felt like that blind was gone. So now I'm completely exposed and completely vulnerable. But over time, I found that that vulnerability has actually made me stronger. So I was so afraid of like being exposed, of not having my parents anymore, being the matriarch in my family now, having to be responsible for things that I never thought I'd have to be responsible for, having to make certain decisions that I never had to make on my own before. I learned that I could do hard things, and I could do hard things on my own. And that vulnerable, I would not be the person I was today if I wasn't as much. So I took the chance, like Carolyn said, to be just vulnerable. I didn't have any choice. So that blind is an illusion. And that's another thing that I learned, that I don't have control that over over anything. There are no advantages per se that come from outside in. They all come from inside out. So it was just, I know I'm rambling, but they all were spiritual experiences. All of that. Or they were all spiritual experiences. That's what they all have in common. And at the end of the day, having to be vulnerable, having to be exposed, having been stripped of everything that I thought kept me safe, kept me in control, kept me on point, were gone. And I became much better and much stronger for not having those things. You guys are so awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful.
It really
And that
was.
really is the truth.
Mhm.
When you lose what you thought would be lifelong safety, you start to question, you just start to question your own personal strength and whether or not you'll be able to handle what other people may have handled for you before. Mhm. Yeah, that was really beautiful. Thank you so much, Kim. Would anyone else like to share?
I'll share. This was hard.
Mhm.
Just gonna say that. So mine was getting the diagnosis of pigmented villonodular synovitis. It's like a rare disease that happens like 1.8 in a million people. And it's an extremely debilitating and painful disease in addition to being a rare disease, which means that um, the diagnosis, the subsequent surgeries and the treatments, like the chemo and all the surgeries, like have forever altered my life. I was faced with the possibility of the loss of my leg, constant swelling, inflammation. Some days were so painful that I couldn't walk. And I felt like all of my dreams were tied up in the ability to move about freely. Like my entire life is part of my, in my leg, right? I was young, I was in my 30s, so it wasn't never anything that I had ever thought about or considered. And so I felt like my freedom in my life, like those things were no longer an option. Like me, or the definition of me, had radically changed. That change was as radical as the treatments the doctor were giving me. And the change was making my life feel as limited as the choices that I have. But it also eventually led me to realize that I can rewrite the story of my life based on now, not when. Um, so I began to focus on my now dreams, and I did all the crazy things that I wanted to do so that if I ever had to lose my leg, I had accomplished all the things on my bucket list.
Mm. Thank you, Cheryl. I know being a person that's ill will certainly change around how it is that you perceive your life to be. So yeah, thank you. That's important, and that can happen to anybody at any time with no warning. Just one more before we move on, or should we just go on to the next question?
I just want to say you try to pull an ugly cry out today. I see that. I feel one coming on. Carry on.
I I don't want to necessarily read mine, but this actually this revision talk actually has me I'm writing a memoir, and I think this will be the final chapter,
Mhm.
what I've written, and
Yeah.
added to that. It's actually a great question
Mhm.
to my answer will be based at the end of
Mhm.
this book.
Yeah. It is a wonderful question. Is that and that was why I wanted to bring it to the group, because it really is profound to be able to rethink or to review what you used to think of and you know what you think about it now, so that you can have a to be able to sit down and write what it is, how your thinking has grown because of usually
Yes,
adverse moments in life,
yes,
things that you thought were bad for you
yes, yeah.
eventually turn into a good thing. It might take you some years to be able to find it, but
That's right. It may take a long time, a lot of pain and a lot of,
Mhm.
yeah.
But that's what life is, and that's okay. We learn that that's what life is.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next one. Describe a moment when you had to rewrite your life plans. Write about a time when your life took an unexpected turn, forcing you to change your plans. How did this affect your overall life trajectory? 2 more minutes. Okay. So the question is, describe a moment when you had to rewrite your life plans. How did this affect your overall life trajectory? Is anybody excited to go first? Well, I can share. Oh, go
If
ahead.
if you insist. In 2006, when I was forced to retire earlier than I expected, it opened up the door for me to fully self-actualize according to the vision I had played over and over in my mind for 26 years. I had certainly laid the groundwork. I had the degrees and the transferable skills. However, freedom was what was missing from the formula. I no longer had to get up in time to arrive at a desk at 9 a.m. and envision what I could be doing instead until 5 p.m. Now I could just sleep later and get up and live my daydream of teaching, writing, and exploring unfettered. These days, I don't get to sleep late often, nor do I want to. I wake up with a fire in my bones to address my assignment in whatever way it shows up. I have found my way.
Awesome.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
That's awesome because most people, I don't think a lot of people don't ever get a chance to even question finding their way. They might have an idea of it, but even entertaining the question is too much. I know I've heard that from people in my family. You know, I go to work, that's it. What else is there to do? There are other things. The fact that we get to question who we want to be in the world is I don't want to say it's a rare thing, but it's a wonderful opportunity if you're able to take advantage of it. Mine was kind of similar. I wrote about a time when I was, I don't know, maybe somewhere in my early 30s. And it was just a lot of stuff was changing. And I was married at the time. And I was a doctoral student. And, I had a nice little job title and I was living in Washington, DC, so-called living the dream at the time. But I felt kind of restless and I wanted to be able to do something else. And I remember I wanted to start a blog. I didn't know really what about. And so I kept going back and forth in my head what the blog was supposed to be about. And then I finally sat down one day and I said, I'm just going to write and see what comes out. And the first thing that came out was, I don't know who I am. And I wasn't expecting that to come out. I was like, I don't know who I am or what it is that I'm supposed to do. And so that was basically what I wrote about. And that was my first blog post for that particular blog at that time. Would anyone else like to share?
I struggled with this one a little bit as I was writing. Like the first thing I thought about was like some kind of drastic change, right? This idea of rewriting your life plans. But then the more I wrote, the conclusion I came to was that I didn't have any drastic changes. What I said was that I simply changed lanes. I found another way to achieve or reach the destination. And so I thought about, all the times that, I would get kicked off the current lane. Whether that was, being fired or laid off. Or, when I decided to go to Harold Washington instead of Howard, or, just different ways of accomplishing the goal.
So rerouting yourself.
Yeah, well, I said I changed lanes. Maybe this lane became too slow or too fast, or somebody was turning in front of me. I just got over and still, continued on my destination.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me of the labyrinth. I don't know if any of you have ever done a labyrinth meditation, but that's what the labyrinth teaches. Because if someone else is,
Some people shook their head no. Can you explain what the labyrinth is?
oh, I'm sorry. The labyrinth it's not a maze. A labyrinth, you enter at a point and you end up coming out at that same point. But the premise behind it, and it's if you before we get off, maybe I could find the link to put a picture of a labyrinth in for you so you could research it. But even if you go on Google and put in printable labyrinth, you could actually print it out and trace it with your finger to affect the same spiritual change that you would receive if you walked it. Because it said that if you gaze upon this, yes, if you gaze upon this image, you are instantly transformed. Is why I made Labyrinth the cover of my book, Incantations, which is a book of affirmations to give people a new language for themselves. But you enter the space, you enter this area, and you follow a path. So what I meant by it reminding me of the labyrinth, Natisha, is if someone else is walking the labyrinth with you and you all reach the same spot at the same time, one of you has to step aside and wait for the other one to pass, and then you get back on the path. And as you trace your labyrinth, you'll see that it reminds you of a brain. So it's like thinking with your left side of your brain and your right side of the brain, depending on what part of the labyrinth you're on. But many of the mysteries of life fall away when you walk the labyrinth, and acceptance takes its place. Just with the acceptance of sometimes it's just not my turn,
Mm,
and having the patience to wait your turn to move
mm,
forward.
mm. That's good.
That is good. Not forcing things
Hmm.
to have to wait your turn.
Hmm.
That's powerful.
So wherever you are in the world, I highly recommend um, that you search Labyrinth for
Mhm.
yourself, and um, and see what you could do about making it a part of your spiritual practice.
I never heard of actually being able to use your finger to go through it. I've walked
Mm.
some of them, but never actually done it with my finger. I think I will try that.
Yes, and also because you love to draw, you could use a marker too, so
Mhm.
that you can, clearly find the path. If you click on the link in the chat, I I put a link for it should be the printable labyrinth. Let me just see some. Yeah, the printable labyrinth is in there for you.
Thank you.
Hmm. I've seen people, oh, so let me just explain. When you get to the middle, that rosette represents different realms, like the angelic realm, the earth realm, uh, uh, um, the water realm, all of the different elements. I have um, I have an image that I created, Halana, that I'll send to you to send to the group,
Hmm.
where it defines each petal on that rose for you. That way,
Oh,
when you get in the middle, you say your prayers and you drop. Like I was a labyrinth docent at Marble Collegiate Church because they have a beautiful labyrinth room. And my mother's actually inurned across the hall, and I'll be partially inurned there as well in the columbarium. But I would sit and watch people, and they would come in with anxieties. Not that they told me what their anxiety was, but they might have tears in their eyes, or, they might be openly crying. I've seen people sit in the middle of the labyrinth and write. I took my girlfriend there one time. She did a prayer dance, a praise dance in the middle of the labyrinth, whatever moves you. But I've actually watched people and watched their cares fall off of their spirit. It's an
mhm.
amazing thing to see when a person receives a transformation from something that simple.
Mhm. Yeah, I would love to see that. If you can send it to me and I'll just send it to the list so everybody can have it if they care
Sure.
to read. Okay. We'll move on to the last question because we're running out of time. Let's see. How has revising initial impressions of people or situations changed your relationships? How has revising initial impressions of people or situations changed your relationships? Okay, I'm gonna shorten, excuse me, I'm gonna shorten this one because we are running out of time. So if anyone wants to share what they've written so far or what they were trying to write down, then you can sort of finish it on your own. But the question is, how has revising initial impressions of people or situations changed your relationships?
I'll share.
Sure.
Let's see. My family is more respectful to me, and we are more distant, yet express love for one another more often since revising my initial since making change.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So you were the one that made the change, and so you say you experienced
Mhm.
you experience they changed towards you because you've changed.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, they're more respectful.
Mhm.
And this includes not my married family, but my mother, sisters,
Mhm.
people I care for.
Mhm. That's powerful. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
I'll share briefly. I just want to say first, these questions today is just like punch me all up in my stomach, man. This is deep. For me, I spent so much time in my life externalizing, thinking that that external searching, everything was outside of me, so I thought. And once I was able to realize that it was all internal, that's when my life really began to change. The work is inside me. So all the religious and social and political and community and all the things, that I involved myself in, and millions of well, not millions, but thousands of dollars on books and seeking spiritual teachers and all of that. And none of it really changed me until I was able to internalize and look at everything from an internal perspective. So that was the big change for me. And I'm still in it. I think we're frozen.